Hi, I'm Michael Allen, the CEO of Allen Interactions, and welcome to the Journey Back. This is an exciting collection of industry leaders sharing their insights and helping us feel confident that, we're going to get back, but not to where we were. At least I hope it's better. I hope we get back to greater success than we were having before. And I think we have the means and know how to do that. And this is such a big opportunity for us to look at the strengths and weaknesses in our organization's performance and determine how we might actually move, given that things are not going to be quite the way they were before. Some cases will be quite different. I have this axiom that has so far not let me down, which is the source of success is almost always, if not in fact always, doing the right things at the right times. It's not knowing the right thing to do and doing the wrong thing or failing to do the right thing. Success is actually doing the right things at the right times. I think this is important for everyone, for all of us, even in our personal lives, in our community, in our work life, in our family, of course. So, success, if success comes from leaders doing the right thing and employees doing the right thing, what about vendors? And what about customers? Actually, we need to get everyone doing the right thing. We need our customers buying our products at the best time for us to sell them, at the time where we can uh, be the most profitable. And we need our vendors to support us with the right products, with the right services, with the right advice at the right time. So I think it's pretty easy if you trace the roots of success. It's always coming from people doing the right things at the right time. Getting back to success or moving ahead to better success requires change. We can't keep doing the same old things and hoping they'll be better. So change isn't an option, it's a requirement. Change doesn't come naturally to us. In general, we find our habits, our comfort zone, and we like to stick to them. We know that taking risks can result in some big problems, and so often we think about doing something different, but we don't. So, first question for us in our organizations is, do our people have the ability to do the things we need them to do? And the data that you'll hear from some of the other speakers in this event show that people know they're going to have to change their performance. They're going to have to do different things. They're going to have to do them to different levels of perfection. And so that ability is paramount to success, but so is the willingness to perform. I think often we don't change our behavior not because we couldn't, but because we don't really want to. And so we need both an organization that's willing and able. So let's look quickly at able. How do we build new skills and ability quickly and with confidence that we're going to have those abilities? Well, I have an answer for this that we call in our organization CCAF. It's a model of training people that we have had such amazing success with over all the other paradigms that we've tried and applied and we see other people working with. CCAF is almost magical in its ability to adapt the training experience to the needs and abilities of each individual person, which is what technology should help us do. Technology shouldn't be used in a classroom style model, it should be used in an individualized model where each person is recognized for their abilities and helped to advance those abilities. So let me just walk through this very, very quickly. It's an oversimplification, but I just want to give you the flavor of it because if you work with it, I think you'll be really very, very pleased at the outcome. First, we like to put people into a context that they can realistically imagine themselves being in, some situation that relates to them. And right away, you've got a connection with your learner when they see this situation that you're asking them to imagine themselves in. That's a whole lot better than just saying, I've got a principle, a set of principles for you to learn. These 25 steps are really important. Let's go into those steps. And then, oh God, 25 steps, I have to learn 25 steps. But if you say, I'm in this situation where a customer is asking for a volume discount or is returning a product that we've never sold, or a customer who's really unhappy that the thing broke the first time they used it, um, or a patient that feels like they're not getting enough time from the doctor, or all these many, many different contexts that you can imagine. If you're in training and somebody says, now imagine you're in this context, you right away start thinking about that situation and imagining yourself in it. And that's fortified by then throwing some kind of a challenge for you, the second C in CCAF. This is some stimulus for you to say, you've got to do something about this. What would you do? Now, imagine that you do this at the beginning of your training, not after you've presented all the solutions and all your 25 principles and so on, but actually right at the front. For each individual learner who's working privately, doesn't have to worry about embarrassment, and doesn't really have to worry about failure either. And the the challenge will ask them to do what they know how to do, best to do. They may be really good at solving problems like this. And so you'll see that right away, and you won't feel like, oh, I've got to train them. Training people to do things they already do well is demeaning and it's boring. And of course, it doesn't lead to any performance improvement. But on the other hand, you'll also probably identify some people who really need help. And so after they try to solve a problem or meet a challenge, the feedback that we like to give is, first, if you did well, fantastic. Let's go on to some other situations or some other challenges. If you didn't do well, we like to give you just a few hints. Think about this. Try this. And that will sometimes help people get the right perspective, and they'll do really well, and that's all they need. Some people will need to be walked through exactly, here's how you do this. And so those people will get that form of training through the feedback, while others will be complimented for their expertise, and they'll go forward. So it fits the individual in so many ways. It shortens training time overall, and because it builds an experience, it becomes a meaningful event that really helps change performance. CCAF really helps build abilities. And so what we do is we string those together in a series of modules, welcoming people, of course, and then going through with an objective of reaching mastery before we go on to the next step, until we give that all-important badge. Unfortunately, this isn't enough. This is so much better than the average training, but in my view, it's not enough because it doesn't really address the willingness factor, which is really important. So people might be very successful in training and then go right back to doing what they were doing before. And actually, many, many employers report that that's exactly what happens, which means that why they often have such low regard for training overall. Well, what about this willingness factor? I'd like to draw on some brilliant work done by a company called Partners in Leadership that points out that in most organizations, leadership gives directions and say, I want you to do these things. And so they enter into this pyramid at that orange level right below results, where I want you to do this. And yet managers complain all the time that I've told my people what I need them to do, and they don't quite do that. Sometimes they do something completely different. Of course, some people will do it, right? But so many times they're not getting the change, they're not getting the performance from their organization that they need, and they wonder why not? Why not? These are good people. I'm trying to help them. Well, what Partners in Leadership has pointed out is that we all act in accordance with our beliefs. And so many of the people that you're giving these instructions to have a lot of experience. It might be frontline people, they might be mechanics or whatever. They've done their job for a long time. And you're thinking, I know management wants me to do this differently, but they don't do what I do every day. I know what the problems are and I know how to do this job. So yeah, I hear what they're saying, but they're better off if I do what I know how to do. And so there's a strong magnet for people to continue doing what their beliefs have led them to do. So it's very hard to change behavior by just telling people to do it. And of course, some habits are addictive. Like smoking. Tell people to stop smoking. Yeah, they know they shouldn't smoke, but it's a habit. It's a strong habit. In some cases, addictive. So overcoming habits and changing performance needs to change beliefs. And the question is, how do you change beliefs? The very interesting thing that they point out is that our beliefs come from our experiences. Others can share their experiences and they may modify our beliefs to some extent, but our personal beliefs, our personal experiences, are strong dictators over what we believe, and our beliefs are dictators over the actions that we take. So the trick is, how do we change those experiences? And the nice thing is that CCAF, being an experiential training model, gives us that opportunity to have people experience doing things in different ways and finding out what the outcomes or the consequences might be. So, as we look at this model when we're designing training programs, we feel like, just designing the content for skills development isn't enough. We also need to take into account how are people feeling. And I use that just kind of an overall category, feeling, but there's more to that. How are people feeling includes what are they worried about? Are they thinking that, boy, I might not do well in this training and I might lose my job or I might be embarrassed? Or they might be feeling, I don't know why they're asking me to take this training. I know how to do this job. I've been a top performer for a long time. I really don't need to improve what I'm doing. There's a whole gamut of feelings from great anxiety to great excitement, from great fear to overconfidence, and so forth. Usually in instructional design programs, that's known to be the case, but it's just not taken into account. Nor are the interests that people have, or what are they thinking about as they're going through this? Do they want to go in deeper? Do they feel that we need more examples, or that it isn't really applying to the typical situations that they see? And overall, their beliefs. The most important is their beliefs. So as we're designing, we look at each of these milestones, the stars, milestones for skills development, but the hearts are the questions of how might a person be feeling and what feelings would be helpful for them to have, and how might we help them have those feelings. What worries might learners have, and how can we address those worries? If somebody gets really worried somewhere, say in Module 3, they might not be able to focus well in Module 4 at all. So how can we address those worries? What might the learner be wondering or thinking about? It's fun to have options in there that, in case you're interested, here's an anecdote. Just to throw those sorts of things in, really develop an interest in applying new skills into new situations. And finally, and most importantly, what might the learner be believing at this time at each? We can't expect them to have all the beliefs we want at milestone 5 at milestone 1. At milestone 1, we might just want them to believe that this program, this learning event, is going to be fun, or it's really, really going to be helpful, or it's going to be something very different from what they're expecting. but we might want to change those beliefs if we possibly can, with a welcome that starts in a very different way from most of those things, right? These principles are very important and you must learn them. It's important to our success. Now let's dig in. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So we can go about this in ways that are far more successful. So again, I do believe that success comes from doing the right things at the right times. And so as leaders, our responsibility is to find ways to get people to do the right things at the right time. The big question to me is, do we look at training as a cost? If we look at training as a cost, it's in that bucket of things that we want to reduce. We want to, if we could get rid of all of our costs, we'd be really happy, right? So we want to reduce those costs, which is why so many training programs are anemic. They just really don't do the job, right? And that prevents success, or at least it makes it a lot harder, and it makes it a lot more expensive and a lot slower to get to success. So good training programs are just sort of invaluable from my point of view. So is it a cost, or is it an effective training that enables us to get back to success as an investment, as an insurance policy to get to success? Great training programs really are smart, but they aren't the typical training programs. They differ in the ways that I'm describing. So thank you very much for spending a few moments with me. I hope that I've shared something in there that is of value to you, and of course, would always be very interested in discussing these things with you in more detail. Thanks for joining us at the Journey Back.